Well, the first 1.5 billion is committed, the second 1.5 is not committed. So the terms of the first 1.5 have been agreed, but as you go through the equity process, and there is likely to be a debt for equity swap where the creditors will take the equity, they'll also look at refinancing the debt stack, including the super senior facility.
So are you obliged to draw down the balance?
No.
Okay. So did you borrow too much?
I mean, that's quite a difficult question to answer. No, we didn't. We negotiated an amount in two tranches. In fact, the second 1.5 billion splits into two tranches as well of 750 each. We negotiated an amount that we thought gave us a stable foundation from which to complete the equity raise and also to reach agreement with Ofwat over the regulatory conditions that would apply to us. The second tranche of 1.5 billion was there in case we went to the CMA and needed it, but the terms around it have yet to be agreed.
Okay, so it's accruing interest for its creditors.
The first 1.5 billion is, the second isn't.
Okay, so who's paying for that?
That's paid for by that facility.
Okay. So customers won't be paying for that.
Customers
So what do you mean that's paid for by that facility?
What is
the structure of the facility includes funding that allows you to pay for the interest and the consent fees and everything that goes with it. It's not paid for by customers.
Can I just drill down into that a little bit more? Can you just explain that to the committee, please?
Can I get a mortgage on these terms?
Yeah.
Again?
Can I get a mortgage on these terms? It pays itself.
I mean, it's a very complicated financial transaction. We have advisors who have more detail than I will have, but the consent fees, so fees are paid to the participants who are lending, who might underwrite that amount for the interest that is paid. All of that amount will be built into the facility itself, the debt itself, and it is paid out of the facility to pay those consent fees.
At no stage would this be filtered down to your customers?
Can I try it another way? I think it might be a good idea to try another way. So we get money from customers. 100% of that, without any condition or reservation, is applied to the operations of the company. But the money that we get from customers is not enough to meet all our investment requirements. We draw the balance from debt facilities in good times from capital markets, in bad times from the super senior facility. But the super senior facility has an interest cost to it. We've got to pay that interest cost. The only way we can pay it is by drawing more amounts under the facility.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but you've drawn down a full £3 billion loan. No. You haven't drawn down. You've drawn down half of that.
We've drawn down half of the first 1.5 billion.
Yeah.
In fact, it's not quite half yet because we've just had a third consent that will allow us to draw a bit more down that will see us through until about September.
Okay, thank you for that. I just now want to kind of go back into the creditors. We've already had Barry has already gone into a little bit of detail on that. But you've got your creditors now. We've got the list. That was given to us at 5:00 yesterday. Just to be absolute clarity, why was that only given to us at 5:00 yesterday?
Because each of the members of that committee, each of the 15 names that you've got there, needed to go through their own internal compliance processes in order to have consent to release their name to the committee. You may think it was quite long-winded. I wouldn't want to comment on that. We had hoped to do it on Friday. It didn't come through till yesterday.
So explain why that was. Why that process was necessary.
Well, I think each of the institutions has their own rules regarding the extent to which they appear on public record, and they just wanted to be sure they had to go through their processes internally.
Okay. You've also stated that the creditors have a strong track record of helping complex businesses grow through committed capital and long-term stewardship. Can you just explain a little bit more about what that record actually is, and can you share some of the examples of companies that they've helped grow?
No, not off the top of my head, I can't. I mean, I'm very happy to write to you on that. It's really a question for the creditors rather than for me, but I'll do my best to answer it.
And thank you. Can you just explain the due diligence that you've done in regard to these creditors?
Well, the creditors are lenders of record. You know, they have been there, many of them, for many years. And so there will probably have been due diligence done at the start when the loans were taking on.
Probably.
Well, it's not, honestly, it's not customary in the market to do due diligence on your lenders. You know, they are the people who provide the liquidity to keep the company's operations running. And in good times, that's regarded as the right approach. I mean, you do have checks on bona fides, but you don't necessarily look at their record in terms of how they will behave if the loan went bad.
But the chair has already picked up on the of Elliott being one of those creditors, and worryingly acquired BP, and then obviously has pushed for the offloading of renewable businesses. Surely there should have been some proper due diligence done on that basis.
But I mean, some of these creditors will have bought the debt in the market. That is not a transaction that involves the company at all. I don't know what the position is as regards Elliott. But some of them...
I'm now wanting to move into a different role, though, but as you've told us already, you can do due diligence, but frankly, it's going to make no difference. They control you anyway.
Yeah.
When you take on the debt in the first place, you assume that... I mean, you take on debt in the ordinary course. You approach a syndicate of lenders. The bona fides is essentially reflected in their willingness to make loans. I mean, you do checks on money laundering and all that sort of routine governance, but their bona fides is represented by their willingness to lend you money. And no one, when you take on debt in an ordinary, well-operating company, you don't say what's going to happen if this company runs into difficulty, because that is not the plan, that is not the intention, that is not the outcome you seek. You're just asking, are these chaps good for the money?
Yeah, sorry I interrupted you.
Yeah, that's fine. There's such a huge number of businesses involved here. Do you feel that a consortium of over 100 anonymous, well, not anonymous now because we've got the 15 here, but there obviously are others, but we've got all of these companies ranging from pension funds to activist investors, as the Royal Canada Bank in that list as well. Do you think that they can effectively exert long-term collective stewardship?
They won't. They will appoint a board of directors. We don't know what their intentions are regarding the appointment of directors. There is a discussion, I understand, underway with Ofwat to work out what sort of governance structure Ofwat would like to see these very special situation lenders have in place. But their control will be exercised through the board. I think this is something probably you need to discuss with Ofwat, because it's their discussion at the moment.
Yeah, just moving on from that.
I could just make one point as well, that when we're looking at these 100 institutions, these are the institutions that you'll find in the share cap table of pretty much all the publicly quoted utilities, and they don't seem to have a problem, whether it's Centrica, whether it's Severn Trent, in terms of having acceptable governance arrangements. So I don't think it's beyond.
Don't think other water companies have problems.
But now I'm saying these same investors
have invested in other companies.
Have invested in other water companies.
That are in exactly the same position or on the way to being put in.
And so, to that extent, it's not that different to the situation with Thames.
I'm interested in transparency here. We hear that we don't think it's going to be much different, or there shouldn't be a problem. But we've had the promise of enhanced transparency, and you've used the word amongst you a number of times today. What does this look like compared to the current situation? And is this an admission that Thames has not been appropriately transparent up until now?
I don't think so. I mean, I think as the chairman said, it's instructive to compare the position of the listed water companies. So 3 of the water companies are listed on the stock exchange. They probably have hundreds of thousands of individual investors. You don't know much about any one or more of those individual investors. The large holders have to declare their holdings. I can't now remember it's 3 or 5%, but the large holders need to declare their holdings. The others are not publicly recognised or available. That's the way the system works for the big listed companies. Now, I think after we've gone through this process and we have restructured the balance sheet and some of these lenders have exchanged their debt for equity, it will be the same position as it will be for one of the big listed water companies. There will be a mass of shareholders, many of whom will not be known to the public because their shareholdings have not reached the level where compulsory disclosure is required. So that even in the listed markets, beneath the threshold for mandatory disclosure, you don't publicly know who the shareholders are. The company will, because it looks at the register. But out there, people look wide yonder, there's no real knowledge of who their shareholders are.
Will you, just final point there, will you pledge to ensure that we do receive this enhanced transparency? I mean, getting this list of creditors after being pushed on that for some time is absolutely important.
To be fair, the chairman wrote to me, I believe, last Tuesday or Wednesday. We jumped to it. We asked the creditors, or the committee, for their agreement to disclose their names. This is not something you do every day. We got there
eventually.
It's something you do every day. And so we push them gently.
Your pledge for better transparency going forward.
We're making heavy weather here, but I'm going to stick with this until we're through it. Jane, were you wanting to move it? You're okay. In which case, Henry, we'll move on to you and the creditors' plans.
In terms of the plans, I don't think there's been a commitment in respect of dividend payments, and there's been a hint at public listing. What's the plan to get a return on investment for the creditors?
I'll take this, please.
Yep. So the creditors have said that they're not expecting any dividend payments while they're owning the company. Their intention, as I understand it, is to IPO the company at some point in the future, and that is where they'll make their return.
Yeah. Sorry, say that last.
And so the dividends that they could have taken will be reinvested back in the company to improve its performance. And then the return will be generated on their exit when they, if there's some time off in the future, when they list the company. That is the intention at the moment, as I understand it.
So is there intention to inject fresh equity?
Yes.
Okay. And what about exchange for debt?
There will be a debt for equity swap. The precise details and shape of that have yet to land because they're going through their discussions with Ofwat and they need to understand what the regulatory conditions will be, because that will inform what the financial structure looks like. And when they get that, then we'll know exactly how much equity is going in and how much debt will be written off.
The creditors did put out a press release a few weeks ago in which they said they expected to inject £3 billion of equity to secure £2 billion more of fresh lending to the company, and the total value of the package was likely to, they said 17 billion, not quite sure how they got that figure, but a large amount. And the balance between new funds injected as equity or as debt is in the write-off of some of the existing lending, because the ambition that everybody has is after the transaction has been completed, will reduce the gearing level in the company to under 60% or under. And that can only be done when you have new equity by reducing the amount of the debt. So the debt will be written off. That is all part of the court process that we're hoping to come to later in the year, or perhaps at the beginning of next year.
I think your documents describe it as a material write-down in respect to the debt. I wonder whether it's a better or worse deal for Thames than write-downs offered by KKR or other bidders.
I think we had not got to that stage. We have not got to that stage with any bidder. We didn't get to that stage with KKR. Haven't got to that stage with the creditors.
Well, we don't really know what stage you got to with KKR because you won't release the board minutes and then you won't release the minutes in respect of on the other. So there's a lack of transparency, isn't there?
No, I don't think there's a lack of transparency. I think it just reflects the situation that we are in at the moment. KKR put forward, or did not put forward, a formal offer in the end, but that offer would have been caveated. They would have had to agree the financing with both the creditors, and they will have had to agree a regulatory regime that was applicable to Thames with the regulator. And once all that was in place, then you would have certainty over what the balance sheet would look like. It would involve a haircut, but we didn't get to that point in the process. So the process is now continuing with the creditors.
Is it a better or worse proposal than the one offered by KKR?
As I said, we can't judge the final structure of the company because KKR didn't get that far.
So the Class A creditors, their bid is going to raise £2 billion more of debt. So, do you think that more debt's the solution?
Bear in mind, that is new debt. The issue is what happens to the old debt. And under this court process that we're envisaging, contemplating for the end of the year, much of the old debt will be written off. So you have got, if you think about the capital structure of Thames in the debt side, right at the top you've got the super senior advances that we're now receiving from the creditors. Then you have something called the swaps, the tranche of money that the banks have provided for swaps. Then you have the 15 billion or so of A lending. Then you've got $1 billion of B loans. The B creditors, I think, have been in contact with the committee in the past. And then underneath that, you've got some debt due to the parent company. We don't know yet how much of that debt will be written off. But if the creditors are right in saying that they are going to provide 5 billion of new money, but the value of their package is worth 17 billion, you think that they're expecting a write-off of a huge amount of the existing debt. We haven't got to that stage yet, but that's why we say there's going to be a material impairment of the existing loans.
You can't give a figure as to how much debt there will be on day one?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, yeah, no.
But the aspiration is to reduce our overall gearing level to beneath 60%, which is where Ofwat, I think, want to see it. So this is a huge, bitter pill for the lenders to swallow.
Just you raised it yourself earlier about the subject of special administration. You're not particularly keen on it as an option. But from the point of view of the taxpayer, how much do you think it would cost?
Well, I think there's a feeling in some quarters that special administration is a sort of silver bullet, wipes everything clean.
And how much do you think it would cost the taxpayer?
Well, I think that the estimate that Teneo, the expert retained in the first set of court proceedings, had was 3.5 billion, I believe. I think I gave a slightly larger figure in the first hearing.
Can you reconcile that with the report presented by Teneo to the High Court?
I think it comes from that figure comes from.
They conclude that it would the government would recoup 100% of the funding.
Government probably might well recoup 100% of the funding, because the government will come in right on top of that stack of debts. Mm-hmm. But I think the point is, if they aspire to sell Thames Water to another bidder, to a bidder they find, then we'll have to go through the same process of due diligence, same process of environmental risk assessment, same process of sorting out the creditors.
But so at the end of it,
the government may be in a reasonable shape, but all the problems that we're dealing with now will have to be dealt with again in the context of a special administration.
Just on the question of loans being written off, your report this morning, a loan to your own parent company written off. Talk us through that.
So
that was 1.271.
Yeah, so nearly 1.3 billion pounds. That was a loan that was provided by the operating company, TWIL, to our parents, TWUHL. That loan was then provided onwards to Macquarie in 2007 to help refinance the acquisition of Thames. So it was a long, long time ago, and that was endorsed by Ofwat at the time, a long time ago, and we have taken the view, having looked at it, that it is not going to be repaid.
It's unrecoverable.
It's unrecoverable, so we have written it off. It doesn't affect the operations of the cash flow of the company at the moment.
It increases your level of debt.
It doesn't increase the level of debt, no.
What is the impact of it then?
The debt, there is no impact. We're just never going to recover that loan.
Right. But just to come back to the question of SAR for a second, you think that Tenio, in their assessment, that there would be a cash neutral effect to the taxpayer is actually correct?
I think that is unclear. I know that is what was said in the report.
What do you think it would be then?
Well, there are many uncertainties around special administration. I think in that report, Teneo made clear assumptions about things like how long the special administration would last for and the government's ability to recover all of the costs that were incurred during that period. Those are not absolute certainties.
Secretary of State thinks it would be recovered. He wrote to us on the 25th of June, I quote, "We expect that any government funding required during a SAR would be recouped after the conclusion of the administration."
I accept there is a good chance it could be recovered. But the SAR could also go on for a lot longer. We don't know how long it is going to go on for. And to get out of SAR, if you put it back into the public markets, we will have to go through an equity raise process. There will have to be an agreement with the creditors as well. There will have to be an RP process. And I would expect the new equity
We have a motion for an unopposed return. Minister to move. The question is the Secretary of State for Energy Security Net Zero. We start with Alex Bellinger.
Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. The Government is committed to strengthening collective bargaining and trade union recognition. The Employment Rights Bill and the plan to make work pay will modernise rights and improve conditions. The Office for Clean Energy Jobs engages unions to ensure renewable energy jobs support economic growth, the net zero transition and workers moving from carbon-intensive sectors.
Mr.
Speaker, many of my constituents in Hales Owen work in energy-intensive industries like forges and heavy manufacturing. The Government is rightly supporting these industries to become more energy efficient, but workers need new skills as well as skills in the many new jobs in the renewable energy sector. As they make this transition, how is the Department supporting workers in the West Midlands get the right skills for these new industries?
Well, my honourable friend is absolutely right to raise this point, and supporting workers in energy-intensive industries is essential as we transition our economy. The Government will provide over £1.2 billion per year in skills funding by 2028-29, supporting training in renewables, low-carbon construction and advanced engineering. We're also investing over £100 million over 3 years to develop engineering skills in England and launching new technical excellence colleges to make sure that training stays aligned with employers' needs. And we'll push forward on the clean energy workforce strategy this year.
Question 2, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary of State.
The industrial strategy published last month set out our plans to build clean energy supply chains in the UK, including a new £1 billion fund through GB Energy to partner with the private sector to create jobs in Britain, and the new clean industry bonus, which has the potential to unleash billions of private investment in offshore wind supply chains. We're determined the clean energy future is made in Britain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The power cables over the Tyne are a barrier to businesses securing work for large renewable energy structures, which risk the possible net GVA, benefits up to £1.2 billion. It's been proposed that the removal of the cables will be completed in 2032. Will the Secretary of State help me push for this to be brought forward so that Tyneside isn't held back in the global race for green jobs?
Well, can I first congratulate my honourable friend for being such a brilliant champion of the Port of Tyne and what it offers. And I think she is right to draw attention to this important issue. Approval of any works to reroute the line is a matter for Ofgem, but we stand ready to engage with her and indeed Ofgem to try and bring this forward. And I suggest that my honourable friend, the Energy Minister, meets with her to discuss this important issue.
Thank you,
Mr. Speaker. Despite the growing need for green jobs, and we are all in favour, obviously, of making sure we have the green jobs, fewer than 1 in 10 employees receive any dedicated green skills training, according to an Over Energy survey. So what can we do to support businesses, and what can the government do to really accelerate that important training programme in all businesses where we need green jobs?
I think the Honourable Lady raises a really important issue, Mr. Speaker, and later on this year we're going to be publishing a clean energy skills plan to address precisely this question. How do we make sure that we equip workers with the skills they need to take advantage of these jobs? This is something that is being led by my right honourable friend, the Education Secretary, in the work that she is doing with Skills England. But there's a whole range of things that we can do. And for the first time, government will publish what the skills needs are for clean energy jobs and how we meet them. And I think that's going to be an important step forward.
Dr. Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As people fly off for their summer holidays, the chances are the steel in the aeroplane's engine comes from the Stocksbridge Speciality Steels plant in my constituency. I'm hopeful about the news that Liberty Steel, who own this site, has attracted potential investors for this asset, which is essential to our national security and with opportunities for net zero infrastructure, including wind turbines. However, uncertainty around the firm means pensions have not been paid to the skilled workforce there for 10 months, causing significant worry and anxiety for the 600 local steelworkers there. What reassurances can the Minister provide to Stocksbridge steelworkers on how the outstanding pension contributions will be paid, including in any future new ownership arrangements?
Well, I think my honourable friend raises a really, really important issue about her constituency and the steel industry. And I'd say two things. One, What this government has done, which I'm afraid was not done previously, is set up a dedicated fund for steel to be able to make the green transition. This is something that we talked about in opposition, and we're now actually delivering billions of pounds to help the steel industry transition. On the specific issues of pensions that she raises, I will take that issue up with my right honourable friend, the Trade and Business Secretary.
Graham Leopard.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The workers of Grangemouth deserved far better than they got from the Labour Government. And to add insult to injury, they have had to watch them pull out all the stops for Scunthorpe and Prax Lindsay. In a written answer to me, the Minister refused to confirm how much money the UK Government had spent to continue operations at Lindsay. So will he now come clean and tell us what is the price they are willing to pay to save jobs in England that they weren't willing to pay to save Grangemouth in Scotland?
Yeah. I mean, the honourable gentleman is so wide of the mark, it's unbelievable. This is an issue. The Grangemouth closure was foreshadowed before this government came to power. We have worked hand in glove with his colleagues in the Scottish Government all the way along. Myself and Gillian Martin have been working on it. And for him to try and make party politics out of this issue is frankly a disgrace.
Shadow Secretary of State Andrew Bowie.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. The British oil and gas industry is a resilient sector. It has to be, given this government's actions over the past year, and it does take a lot to shock it. But shocked it was on the 2nd of July when, sadly, the Energy Minister claimed to the Scottish Affairs Committee that there was, and I quote, no material difference between oil and gas imports and production from the North Sea. So might the Secretary of State take this opportunity he has to apologise and clarify those remarks, because thousands of workers in the energy industry supply chain in Aberdeen and across the UK are very worried that their department has such scant regard for them, their work and this world-leading industry.
Well, first of all, let me congratulate him on his promotion, Mr Speaker, to Shadow Secretary of State. On the specific issue that he raises, we will take no lectures from them. 70,000 jobs were lost in the North Sea on their watch. And here is the difference. We are building the future. The Acorn project, talked about for year after year by that side, nothing done. This government is delivering.
Minister Bowie.
Mr Speaker, he won't apologise. That's absolutely fine. The industry already know that this is a government that wants nothing to do with it, takes every opportunity to talk it down and in every effort to shut it down. But in that same session last week, the Minister, sitting to the Secretary of State's left, also claimed, and I quote, that much of the gas that's extracted from the North Sea is exported. Mr Speaker, this is simply not true. 100% of all the gas that's extracted from the North Sea is used in Britain. The Secretary of State knows this, so why is he so determined to talk down this industry, spout falsehoods and myths, drive investment out of the UK, rely more on imports, and crucially, cost people's jobs and drive the skills that we need out of this country, because that's exactly what he and his colleagues are doing.
Here is the difference between them and us, Mr Speaker, which is they would keep us hooked on fossil fuels for time immemorial. They've learnt not a single lesson from the disaster they inflicted on this country. Family finances ruined, business finances ruined, public finances ruined. A year on, not a word of apology.
Right, Emma Foodie.
Question 3, please, Mr Speaker.
Mr Speaker, with your permission, I'll answer questions 3, 4, 9 and 10 together. Since coming to office, this government has shown how clean power can create jobs across our country. Thousands of jobs in nuclear through our investments in Sizewell C and SMRs, in carbon capture and storage, in offshore wind, in home heating through our Warm Homes plan. That's what it means to deliver reindustrialisation through our clean energy sprint.
Emma Foodie.
I thank the Secretary of State for that answer. The North East is uniquely placed to be the home of the green energy revolution, including the expansion of the Energy Academy in North Tyneside, providing a skills pipeline. How will the Clean Energy Industries Plan help to provide the long-term certainty for investment and to deliver good quality job for communities across my Cramlington and Killingworth constituency and the North East?
Well, Mr Speaker, I see the North East as an absolute powerhouse for the clean energy jobs we want to create. And so early on in this government, we did something which, again, had been talked about for years by the party opposite and actually delivered the East Coast CCUS cluster, projected to create thousands of jobs, including benefits for her constituency. And it's not just the direct jobs, it's the jobs in the supply chain. And we have an absolute opportunity, and the North East will be at the heart of this, to lead in the clean energy jobs of the future.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I declare an interest as the Chair of the APPG for Critical Minerals. And given that building local supply chains in Cornwall is one of the primary means by which, if we're to dig nearly £1 billion worth of stuff out of the ground every year, or pump 95 gigawatts of offshore wind onshore, that local people get the benefit. So what steps is he taking to ensure that supply chain businesses, particularly those of the size that we have in Cornwall, and their workforces get the support they need so that workers and local communities may share in the spoils of that investment?
Let me first say how much I love Cornwall, Mr. Speaker. And I love Cornwall for many reasons, but one of the reasons I love it is because of the opportunity it offers to drive the jobs of the future. And you know, I know from my visit, whether it is critical minerals or geothermal or offshore wind, there's just huge opportunities in Cornwall. And that's what the industrial strategy is designed to superpower. That's what the huge investments that my right honourable friend the Chancellor made in the spending review will provide. And as part of our clean energy workforce strategy later on this year, Cornwall will be at the heart of it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know the Secretary of State loves Harlow as well. Does the Secretary of State agree that the historic investment in the clean energy secured at the spending review will mean thousands of job opportunities for young people, including in Harlow, in renewable energies, in nuclear, in energy efficiency, and so much more?
Mr. Speaker, I love Harlow, and I love Harlow College. And you know, the visits I've had to Harlow College have been incredibly inspiring. And I've seen with my own eyes those young people who are so enthusiastic. I remember talking to them about the green skills, about the jobs of the future. And you know, when I think about what this government is intending to deliver, it's absolutely about his constituents in Harlow.
Trina Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Secretary of State join me in congratulating TK Murray Limited, no relation honest, an energy-saving contractor based in Kilsyth, on having already cross-trained more than half of their installers? They have the workforce to become fully-fledged installers of air source heat pump technology from gas boilers. This has been facilitated by Warmworks, who have developed a supply chain of more than 30 small and medium enterprises to make more than 750 green jobs a reality.
I love Cumbernauld, Mr. Speaker. And look, let me say, I think my honourable friend raises such an important issue, which is the opportunity there is in relation to heat pump technology. And as we see this growth in heat pumps, this isn't just about a better deal for consumers, it's also about the manufacturing that we can see, and she's given us a great example.
Mark Pritchard.
If Secretary of State loves Shropshire, I'm sure he does, I hope he's not going to bulldoze over all of our green belt, but that's another story for another day. When he talks about green jobs, I'm sure he doesn't want to see our fire service deployed more and more. And does she share my concern that when we have solar energy feeding into battery storage areas, there's a real concern with the Shropshire Fire Service and across this country of fires, out of control fires, very difficult to control by our fire services. And does he agree with me that they should be a statutory consultee on future planning applications for battery storage?
This is an important issue we need to take seriously, and at the moment it is under the health and safety regime, but we are consulting about what the best arrangements can be to make sure that we have the highest standards of safety. There are high standards of safety in place, but as we see the growth of batteries, we want to endeavour, and we will endeavour, to make sure they are maintained.
Alison Bennett.
Mr. Speaker, it goes without saying that I love Burgess Hill. And one brilliant business in Burgess Hill is Steve Willis Training, who this week are celebrating their 25 years of being in business, training the region's future engineers for electricity, plumbing and heating. Does the Secretary of State agree with me that it's vital that these businesses are there delivering the skills of the future? And would you like to join me in congratulating Steve Willis Training on being a brilliant family business providing vital skills to the South East?
I warmly congratulate Steve Willis Training on their 25 years in operation, and indeed the work that they are doing. And I think the Honourable Lady makes such an important point, which is we can help create the jobs with the private sector, but then the question is, are people going to have the skills to fill them? And it sounds like organisations, companies like Steve Willis Training are absolutely fundamental to that. And sometimes it requires lots of training, sometimes it requires short amounts of training to retrain people into the new technologies like heat pumps, but it's vital that it happens.
Thank you very much
indeed, Mr. Speaker. People across Basel and Billericay, and indeed across the country, want to see more jobs in energy production, to see cheaper energy. But what they don't understand is why the government is backing some energy, but not all energy. Why is the government insisting on ensuring that jobs in oil and gas are being shipped abroad rather than kept here, while not investing in green energy at exactly the same time?
The answer is we're not, Mr. Speaker. And look, the reality is, which he knows, is that the North Sea has been a basin in decline. 70,000 jobs have been lost, were lost under the last government. And the question is, do we create the jobs of the future, as well as maintaining existing fields for their lifetime, as this government is committed to do? And you know, if he wants to see those jobs, he should support our plans.
Seamus Loudon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tempted as I am to wax lyrical about the beauties of Aberdeenshire, let me give the Secretary a very simple, easy question. By this time next year, how many jobs will GB Energy have created in Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire?
GB Energy is going to create thousands of jobs across the country and in Aberdeen. And look, here is the thing why GB Energy really matters. We have chosen to put its headquarters in Aberdeen, recognising that Aberdeen is the clean energy capital of our country, but not just for oil and gas, and that is important, but also for the future. And frankly, they're chuntering from the front bench. They never did anything to create that future for people in Aberdeen.
Donald Miller.
Question number 5, please.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are working together with Ofgem and the National Energy System Operator to accelerate network infrastructure through reforms to planning, supply chains and other areas, delivering the capacity needed to achieve clean power by 2030 and deliver economic growth.
Colin Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my constituency of Worcester and Woodstock, the local plan anticipates significant new employment sites to create jobs and growth. Tritax Big Box tell me that they want to put solar panels on 100% of the usable roof area of the buildings they intend to create. Local planning policies would support this. Yet I was shocked to learn that Tritax only expect to install 25% solar panels on the usable roof space. They cannot get a permit to generate electricity nor consent to export to the grid. So will the Minister or his officials meet with me to discuss how we can turn this into a win-win opportunity for rooftop green solar?
Well, it sounds like a fantastic opportunity, and of course we've set out our ambition is that we'd like to see solar on as many rooftops across the country as possible. It's a win-win, as the Honourable Gentleman rightly puts it. He and I have spoken about a number of these issues before. I'm very happy to discuss it with them, and if he could write to me with the specifics, we'll certainly look at it. But we are looking at reforming all of those processes to make sure we can get as much power as possible.
Show the Select Committee list.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The challenges in increasing electricity grid capacity include both the ability to get planning consent and to achieve grid connections, as the Minister knows. Now, in the report that the Select Committee published last week, we made reference to the problem of inconsistency in some of the guidance and some of the energy plans between what comes first, the grid connection or the planning consent. Can the Minister please address this and ensure that the government clears up this inconsistency so we can move forward with increasing the electricity generating and grid capacity?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for the question and for the work that he and the whole committee have been doing on this work. His report has been my bedtime reading every night this week, and it's an important piece of work. He's right about two things. First of all, where processes are not as well aligned as they should be, we absolutely need to look at what